Why is China investing in Africa? Hello Displorers, welcome back to another exciting video and thanks for watching. In this video we shall be breaking down the reasons why China is investing in Africa. Over the years, China has invested trillions of dollars into the African continent to build massive infrastructural and developmental projects. Much of these infrastructures is part of China's Belt and Road Initiative, an estimated $1 trillion plan to connect the country to trade routes all over the world. African leaders like Kenya's Uhuru Kenyatta have favorably compared China's investment to earlier projects built by colonial powers. Nowadays, the presence of China can be felt in almost every African country. We have a video on the top 10 African countries with the most Chinese debt. Click on the card on the left-hand corner on your screen to check it out. The big question is China's investment in the continent of Africa actually a win-win, as some African leaders are making it seem, or just a new form of colonialism on a continent? Hence, in this video, we will investigate China's possible investment and gain into Africa by tracing their initial investment on the continent, their current projects and possible reasons for their investment in Africa. But before we do that, if you are new here, welcome. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our videos. China's initial investment in Africa. While China's Belt and Road Project initiative was only proposed in 2013, the country's first infrastructure project on the continent was built many decades ago. The TazaHra railway, completed in 1976, was built to connect copper mines in Zambia to Dar es Salaam, Tanzania's former capital. The TazaHra Railway was the first infrastructure project built on a pan-African scale. China's Belt and Road Projects was designed with this scale in mind, creating new trade routes within and between African countries. Chinese current investment in Africa and consequences. In the year 2017, a Chinese firm opened a railway network in Kenya, connecting its capital Nairobi to port city of Mombasa. There are already plans to extend their network into South Sudan, Uganda, Rwanda and Burundi. China, through its public and private sector, has already loaned about $132 billion to African countries from 2006 to 2017. Many observers worry that African countries won't be able to pay back these debts, placing them in what is being called a debt trap. The JUBILEE debt campaign, which campaigns for poor countries' debts to be cancelled, estimates that about 20% of debts held by African governments is owed to China, making it the single largest lending continent. For comparison, 35% of African debt is owed to multilateral global institutions like the World Bank. Earlier waves of Chinese firms that invested in African countries made mistakes that caused problems to the governments of those countries. Starting in 2005, tens of thousands of Chinese workers poured into the West African country Ghana to take advantage of the gold rush. This eventually brought a local backlash due to the accusations of illegal mining and flaming tensions between local miners and the Chinese government. Many observers have pointed to projects like this as examples of China exploiting Africa for its natural resources through, quote, neo-colonialist behaviors. However, other observers comment that the majority of investment from China has largely avoided creating the problem seen in Ghana's gold mines precisely because resource extraction has not been the main focus of other investments. In fact, the number one industry for Chinese investment has been the service industry, according to IMF economists, who also point out that those countries where China's investment has been largest includes those without abundant natural resources such as Ethiopia and Kenya, in addition to resource-rich countries like Nigeria. Ultimately, African governments may feel that the risk of accumulating debt is outweighed by the benefit of new infrastructure. The China-Africa Research Initiative found out roughly 40% loans between 2000 and 2014 went towards paying energy projects, and another 30% went to modernizing transportation on the continent. These loans were set up at relatively low interest rates and with long periods of time to pay them back. The Center for Global Development calculated the numbers on debts to China as a result of the Belt and Road Initiative and found that 8 of the 71 countries involved in the project were particularly vulnerable to getting caught in the debt trap. Of these 8 countries, only one was in Africa, Djibouti, a poor country that has also become a military strategic point for China. The other 7 countries are in Europe and Asia. Nevertheless, China has denied getting engaged in debt trap diplomacy, but then the huge loans and long periods of time given to repay these loans could just be a cover to keep these countries loyal to China, or maybe China has just other reasons for investing so heavily in Africa. Now let's examine the actual reasons why China is investing in Africa. Reasons for China investing in Africa. The reasons for China investing in Africa have been attributed to political, economic, financial and business motives, which need to be looked critically as a whole to see China's end or long game. The quest for raw materials. Africa is a proud holder of some of the world's largest natural resources left on Mother Earth, and it is a good reason why mining and oil remain the primary focus on China's investment. Africa is estimated to contain 90% of the entire world's supply of platinum and cobalt, half of the world's gold supply. 2/3 of world manganese and 35% of the world's uranium. It also accounts for nearly 75% of the world's coltan, an important mineral used in electronic devices, including cell phones. However, the country's investments extend throughout virtually every market sector, including everything from infrastructure to food processing. China's investments in the largely undeveloped infrastructure of African nations are particularly strong, encompassing key areas such as utilities, telecommunications, port construction, and transportation. China's investments have the country well positioned to profit from continuing economic development in Africa. Many Chinese firms investing in Africa are state-owned. This gives them a notable competitive edge when, for example, bidding procurement contracts in African countries, since the companies can obtain substantial subsidies from the Chinese government. Therefore, it is pretty difficult for China to claim not to have colonial behavior, as the colonial masters' main interest in Africa was their raw materials. Military powers. The United States have always been the country known for planting many military bases in other nations, but recently China has been changing that in Africa especially. China has been expanding its military presence into Africa and rivaling the United States on investment and military activity there. Investment in the continent has also been a topic of discussion for the United States and China in its ongoing trade negotiations and political deliberations. This makes us to wonder if China is just creating business ties and good relations, or building an army of military alliances for when the need arises. Fuel for a growing economy. China is a premier emerging market nation, and the well-being of its economy significantly impacts world markets. As the world's largest nation continues its economic expansion, Chinese leaders recognize the increasing need for natural resources, food and product markets necessary for continued economic growth. Their focus on resource-rich Africa is a logical one for China. Mining investments account for nearly 1/3 of China's total foreign direct investment, or FDI, in African nations. By working to secure a solid base of critical raw materials, China strengthens its economy for decades to come. In part because of its need for an ongoing supply of raw materials, it is the reason why China considers Africa as an important partner in its One Belt, One Road initiative. That is why the African market is currently flooded with low-quality goods which they cannot sell abroad. Political motivations. The African continent is a logical place for China to look to extend its geopolitical influence, given it cannot turn to any countries in Europe nor the USA, and the fact that India, which historically is a traditional rival of China, is not a realistic choice. Hence, the largely undeveloped countries of Africa represent a prime opportunity for China to significantly expand its global presence and influence in the world. The nature of China's political motivations is partially revealed by its extensive investment in African infrastructure, as can be seen in the funding it provided through the China-Africa Development Fund. If China can rise to a position where it exerts major control over essential economic elements, such as the utility sector and telecommunications in African countries, while also developing military influence, then it also holds considerable political alliance in those nations. Good business. China is known for its pragmatism because while it represents a major emerging market opportunity for developed countries, China itself has to consider where its primary emerging market opportunities exist. It is already heavily invested in other Asian emerging markets, as well as in Latin markets and South America. African economies provide another sensible choice to take advantage of excellent growth opportunities, both for political reasons and investment returns. In an attempt to also strengthen collaboration with African countries, China has also promised to align the goals for the Belt and Road Initiative with the African Union's own development goals for greater interconnectivity of the continent. However, these promises have yet to be outlined. Ultimately, China's push in Africa may be seeking to increase the country's influence rather than ripe financial gains. Its investments are already strengthening China's alliances with African continents to China's benefits. Every African country but Eswatini, formerly known as Swaziland, has cut ties with Taiwan, a precondition for diplomatic relations with mainland China. Some observers think that if Africa rises economically, they could actually have upper hand by the time they negotiate payments back to China. This explains why African leaders have been so confident in calling Chinese investment a win-win. Still, the reason for China's rush to invest in Africa remains with skeletons, as the true agenda will not be revealed to the common people and not even the leaders of these countries. Take for example, the Belt and Road Initiative by China. Even though it's constructing roads and bridges in the host countries, all that connection is meant to link trade back to China. These countries take loans from China to construct roads using the host country's natural resources, and mostly Chinese contractors, which leave the countries indebted to China, while China is exploiting their natural resources. Secondly, China makes its countries to depend on them by not teaching them how to fish, or in other words produce, as they either produce in China and ship to the country in business with them, or even in the case where they have to produce in the African country involved, they bring their own citizens who do everything. In Cameroon, the Chinese were actually producing down to bakery products and selling them on the streets, which is the reason why you will hear of billion-dollar projects, but no common man will feel a positive impact of it. What makes the deals with China worse is the fact that most of the leaders of African countries are corrupt and care just for their own interest and will not mind failing the good of the country for their personal interest. Hence, we can conclude that China running to Africa has more disadvantages to the African countries involved than advantages. Hence, the question should not be why is China investing in Africa, but why is Africa investing in China? There you have it, explorers. That is a breakdown of why China is investing in Africa. Thanks for watching this video. If you want us to cover any of your favorite topics, leave us suggestions in the comments and we will do well to grant your request. Also, if you did enjoy this video, do well to give it thumbs up and do not forget to subscribe and share with your friends.